This show is not intended for the politically correct or the closed-minded. Enter at the risk of opening your eyes. You have been warned.
Why does the media attack an issue? To get primetime ratings?
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
A moment comes when we step out from the old to the new, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance.
To kind of catapult the propaganda.
You are listening to Open Eyes with your host, Ira Robinson. From the normal to the paranormal, from government cover-ups to the depths of our consciousness, we aim to explore all things. From the dawn of prehistory to current events, no topic is forbidden and nothing remains hidden.
No more secrets.
Open your eyes and open your mind to the fact that life as we know it is not as we have been taught. Join us at latenightinthemidlands.com or openeyesnetwork.com as we take this brief journey through the depths of the cosmos and explore what it really means to be human.
Many peoples have sacrificed their liberties, only to learn to their sorrow that deceit and mockery, poverty and tyranny are their reward.
Whether you're online or offline, intercontinental or intergalactic, hello and welcome to Open Eyes. It is Friday. It is our LNM SPOOKAthon, and hopefully you guys are ready for a really great show tonight. I'm hoping that things are working out here. I was trying to get a hold of my guest, Dark Waters, just before the show here, and we were having some problems connecting, but I think that we've got him on the line right now. I'll bring him in here in just a second. I just wanted to let you guys know, thank you for tuning in so much tonight. Well, this is kind of like the start of a long live stream going on, 31 plus hours of live broadcasting, and I'm on for this section, this 2 hours here, and I'll be back again tomorrow in the morning for another almost 7 hours worth of broadcasting. Oh my goodness, a long day ahead of me here, but anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys are ready for a really interesting time. You guys just listened to Paranormal Soup. They started off this LNM SPOOKAthon and did a really great job. Thank you, Jason, for everything that you do. We really enjoy your show over here in our household. Love the Paranormal Soup. And yeah, so welcome to Open Eyes. Welcome to the live show. And if you guys want to call in tonight, the number is 260-494-3937. Skype line is JDA Film. As always, you can join us in the chat room over at lnmradionetwork.com. And yeah, come on over, become a member of the community. And the reason why we're doing this tonight is, as always, we are looking for, keeping this station alive. We're trying to raise funds. As you guys all know, this is a listener-supported radio station, and we rely on your donations to keep us alive. So please go to the LNM Radio Network site. On almost every page there is a link to be able to donate or subscribe if you want to. Come on over and help us out, help us stay alive. But I do believe we have our guest on with us, Dark Waters. Dark, is that you that's joined us here?
Of course, that's me, my friend.
Awesome. I'm so glad that you were able to get a call in. I was very paranoid, to say the least.
Yeah, it's my fault. I apologize. The number that I gave you was the number for the people who call in and tell me their stories. And every now and then that app freezes. So when you were calling, I saw it ringing, but I couldn't answer. And so then when I finally listened to the message, I was like, oh, man, I'm tripping. I got to hurry up and get on the line. So I'm ready to rumble though, baby. And I got a surprise for you. Since you got open lines, I want to do something special. I guess we can do the first and the third caller that calls in and talks, if you don't mind. I'll give them a 1-month membership to my website, IamDarkWaters.com, where they can hear a whole bunch of these spooky stories that I'm about to get into for free for a month. So
that is awesome. That is awesome, and definitely deeply appreciated. So make sure you guys call in tonight. That would be a great giveaway. Thank you.
Yeah, and then on behalf of the Dark Waters family, I'm going to do a $75 donation to you guys' network. You just got to let me know how to send the money in.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'll send you an email after the show and let you know. Thank you. That is so deeply appreciated. I can't even thank you enough. Definitely. Well, why don't we get started by having you give a little bit of your background to the folks out there that have never heard of you. Personally, I love your stuff. I have loved your stuff since the first time you came onto the scene over there on YouTube land, and I've definitely loved it ever since. So why don't we start off by having you give a little bit of your bio to everybody?
Well, just to give everybody a little bit of background information on me, I'm a paranormal storyteller. And what I do is I take the stories that people share with me in confidence, and then I do these very, very high quality dramatizations of the stories. And maybe we got 2 hours, so maybe we'll play 1 or 2 of those tonight if we can get the Skype working. But someone calls me and they'll tell me their story, or someone will meet with me and share their story with me. And I'll go through this long process of vetting that person out and their story by asking them a couple of questions and then looping them in questions and forcing them to relive that moment is in a gentle way as possible. I try not to just bully anyone, but and then from there I recreate that story. I hail out of New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been born and raised here my whole life. I think I left New Orleans for maybe 2-3 years, no more than 3 years, and I've been here pretty much my whole life. And I'm the person that kind of coined the phrase that, paranormal is the norm here in New Orleans, which it is. And when I first started doing this, I didn't anticipate it being as successful as it is, kind of just retelling the stories. But I found a nice little niche for myself where I get an opportunity to talk to people from all around the world, different races, different cultures. I mean, it's amazing. And the one thing that we all have in common across the world is we all have family. We all have someone we love. And it looks like we all have belief in the paranormal. The more people I talk to from around the globe, it seems as if everybody has a strong, significant belief in the paranormal.
Absolutely, yes. I'm that way myself. To me, the paranormal is normal. I even published a book a few months ago called Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown, where I go into exactly what I think of as haunted houses and the whole, it's interesting because one of the things I did with the book was I went into what our ancestors thought, the ancient Mesopotamians, the ancient Egyptians, the Mayans and Aztecs, on and on and on, trying to find these different commonalities that they held back then and what we hold now. And you'd be amazed at how much has actually traveled through the ages to what we have right now.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I can believe that a lot has traveled down through the ages to us, because when you look at it, our DNA is nothing more than a combination of the DNA of our ancestors. So we're just like these upgraded versions of them, and your upgraded version of what was coming down through your bloodline and lineage. And if you have a lineage like mine that's significantly connected to the paranormal, then you end up doing something like this, which is telling stories and sharing other people's encounters. So I can absolutely believe it.
Like I said, I definitely love the work that you do. And in fact, it's inspired me to do a lot of my own. I'm an author myself, and I've written a lot of short stories and horror fiction, and you name it. Basically, it's whatever I get inspired by is what I end up writing. But I've taken a lot of those short stories and flash fiction things that I've written, and I've actually made them into audio broadcast sort of things as well, doing dramatizations of it. And I started doing that actually because I saw you were doing it, and I'm like, that's a really cool idea. I ought to do that with some of the stories that I've got. That's a really neat thing. So thank you for inspiring me.
No, I'm happy to inspire you. You know what? The beauty of doing that is that in a visual world where everyone is focused on what they see, people are driving their cars and looking at their cell phones while they're driving. They're just preoccupied. When you bring it back to the audio format, like we're doing, you force their imagination to engage. Yeah. And your imagination is so powerful that you don't need a television and you don't need a cell phone to look at anything to be entertained. You just have to engage it again. And that's what people aren't doing. They're not engaging their imagination.
That's it exactly. That's it exactly. So with your channel, what is it that you do? You primarily do stories that people have told you, or do you also invent some of your own? I mean, how do you work it out, or is it just all based on true things?
Well, I've never made up any of the stories. All the stories are stories that people have called and shared with me.
Right. Okay.
Even from day one, when I first started, I shot out a mass email to people and just inquiring about their paranormal encounters. And immediately I started getting feedback, and those were the very first stories that I created. And from there, I went on to having a public phone number where people can call me and share their stories. And so what I do is, typically on a working week, while I'm actually answering the phone, I'll probably take 15, 20 calls in that week. And some of them are long, some of them are short. And then from there, I'll turn around and start recreating those stories if I believe the person is telling the truth. Sometimes it takes a little bit more effort to get to the bottom of it because the person may or may not, everything may or may not add up. So it just depends.
Right.
But then from there, you get the final product, which is what many people have heard, is that audio formatted story. And so there's some times where there's like a lapse in comment. I mean, not lapse in comment, like there's a lull in content because I'm going through the process of vetting out a great story from a person, and then the story comes out.
That's great. And I know how that is myself doing radio interviews. Sometimes you have to probe in weird ways to get people to open up all the way.
Yeah, it really, really is. It gets kind of weird sometimes, but it's one of those things, man. It really is one of those things. I really enjoy doing it. I didn't think it would be as popular as it is, but at the same time, I think there's a place in this world for people who want, that kind of comfort and the knowledge to know that they're not alone when it comes to the paranormal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I hear that a lot myself, when I talk about hauntings and spirits and the paranormal in general, I get a lot of comments from people saying, thank you for talking about that subject. It's something that I am wanting to know about and I've experienced, but I haven't wanted to say anything because I've been too shy about it, or, sometimes they tell me their families make fun of them if they try to talk about it, or, on and on and on. But, it's sad that people have to, come to terms with it in that kind of way, when it really is something that I think almost everybody experiences at least somewhat, No,
absolutely. And, to the listening audience, each and every one of the people around here have probably had a paranormal experience. They just don't consider it super paranormal. So it's not like, they were sitting at the table and a cup flew off the table and hit the wall and shattered. Someone may have had a premonition, or someone may have got a feeling about a person or individual when they first met them. It's like, this is not a nice person, I don't need to be around them. Those kind of things are very, very common. But they're discounted and they're not considered to be paranormal. They're just considered to be, I had a weird feeling. But at the basis of it, at the very bottom core of what paranormal is, it's about a paranormal encounter is about the experience and the feelings that you have. So those emotions and feelings are what actually make the encounter. So, for example, a while ago, I was having a problem at my house with this entity that would just refuse to let me sleep, man. It would do stuff like pull my legs when I was trying to go in the middle of the night and wake me up. If I was sitting at this desk right now working, I would get, cold spots and chills and all the rest of these things. Well, what was associated with that was all of the feelings and the emotions that came along with it. The fear, the fright, the aggravation, and then the physical sensations, which were, the actual cold spots, pretty much the terror of realizing that something was bothering you or messing with you. And then I guess you can say the residuals are kind of the leftover doubt in your mind that at any point in time, something kind of weird or freaky can happen, right? And that's an extreme case. But you take an example where someone's driving down the street. In fact, let me give you a real life example. My sister's taking her two kids to school. They're coming down an incline, And my nephew, who's very, very bad because they don't spank him like they should, is unbuckled out of the seat, standing up in the back seat, acting a fool. Then he sits down and covers his eyes and says, Mommy, we're going to be in an accident. And she's like, sit down, boy, what's wrong with you? 10 seconds later, somebody rams into the back of their car, right? She didn't consider that to be paranormal. She was just like, oh, that was freaky and that was weird. But because her mind couldn't wrap completely around it, she just wrote it off. You know, she went to her safe place mentally and said, oh, that's just, that was weird. I can't believe that happened. But that's about as paranormal as you can get. He had a premonition. Some kind of way it came to him or it was given to him. So it happens every day is what I'm saying.
You're
and
absolutely
to the people listening, that's why I say it's much more common than most people ever understand.
You're absolutely right. And it's something, again, that I've seen quite frequently in my own life and in the lives of others. It's amazing how much people actually overwrite it. I think one thing that I've said on the show before, and I love to repeat it because I think that this really is a lot to do with it, is, if you think about it, your nose is always in your vision, but you're not actually aware of it because it's not quote important for you at that moment to see or to understand that it's there. So your brain overwrites it, it erases it out of existence unless you're made aware of it. So, if I say, look at your nose, suddenly now you're aware of your nose, but until that point you weren't. And I wonder sometimes if things that are paranormal, we've experienced and our brains basically overwrite it, making us not even see that it occurred as a way to cope, because it's something that's outside of the normal scope.
I think you are 100% correct on that. So we have something in our mind called a reticular activating system, right? And the easiest way to explain it is that, let's say you went out shopping for cars and you wanted a red Mercedes-Benz, and people experience this plenty of times so they can relate to this one. You want a red Mercedes-Benz, and all of a sudden you're driving around and all you see is red Mercedes-Benzes. The day before, you didn't see them. You never saw one. But the day you decided you really wanted one, you saw 10 of them or 5 of them or 4 of them, right? That's because your brain is now consciously aware of that want, that need, and that desire. So it's looking for that. And the same thing happens with people who have, extreme paranormal encounters when they're young. Now they're active and they're open to it. And so they experience it and they see it and they're aware of it. And then the opposite works to where people who don't want to be aware of it, they don't want to pay attention to it, or they don't believe in it, they shut it down and they don't experience it. They just don't.
Yep.
I had a friend of mine, I hate to use the word had, because technically we're friends. We're on the outs a little bit, but we're still friends. Like, you know how it gets. Relationships get complicated with people, especially men.
Oh, yeah.
Men who are manly alpha males. It really gets complicated. But anyway, he used to be the manager of a cigar shop down here on Decatur Street called Cigar Factory New Orleans. Well, everybody knows that building is haunted. Has mannequins on the second floor in the back that actually will move. And I don't mean move like, the mannequin's arm moves where you see it. Like, you'll go up the steps and turn on a light and they're in one position. You'll go back downstairs, grab a cigar, come back up, and they've moved positions. And we're not talking about like moved, a couple of inches. I'm talking about moved feet. The orientation has been changed.
Right.
And ain't nobody in there changing the orientation. Nobody works in that area. The flooring is very bad in that area, the place, so nobody goes up there because you can fall to the floor. But anyway, I say all that to say, to paint this picture that he worked in this building for years, 13 years to be exact. I think I've been going there 13 or 14 years. And he would absolutely ignore the paranormal things that were going on. And I would say, hey, man, you don't hear that? He's like, man, I blocked that out because I have to be in this building by myself, and I'm not going to allow that to seep into me. So I don't want anything crazy happening, so I'm going to block it out. And over the time, he was able to actually block it out. There were people who were there who actually was experiencing things, like he'd be in the front of the store, somebody else would be in the back of the store. They'll see a shadow come running out. He'll go right back, literally right back there, won't see anything. He would stay in that same building till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning by himself, where other employees refused to. And the whole reason why I tell that story is because that is how powerful our minds are. He just turned it off. And he literally said, I'm not dealing with this, and I'm turning it off.
Exactly.
So we definitely can do that as human beings.
Absolutely, we sure can. That's a great way to put it. I love it. Thank you. We have about 10 minutes before we have to hit our first break. Do you have one of your stories that you could fit into that time frame?
Yeah. How do you want to do it? I can tell you one of the stories, or if we can get on Skype when we come back, I can actually play one of them via the phone on Skype. Something from my the first horror narration album that I'm doing, which is called Crown Me King, has some great stories on there that you can actually hear the dramatization. But you can do it that way, or I can just tell you one of them, or we can do it all, whichever one you want.
Sure.
I can tell you 20 stories in a row if you want.
Well, why don't we do one where you just tell us, and then when we come back from the break, during the break you can connect with me on Skype, and when we come back from the break, we can get into doing some of the dramatized ones.
Sounds like a plan. So I guess I'll go back into the Mannequin story, and it might have to pick up after the break. But so Cigar Factory New Orleans is 415 Decatur. If you're ever in New Orleans and you want a great cigar, go there. Great people. I've been hanging there 13 years, and the first time I witnessed the mannequins moving, it was after hours, and we were playing a poker game. Me and a couple of guys sitting in the very back of the building at a table, smoking cigars, talking trash, having a few drinks, and we hear some noise coming from upstairs. And the noise is sounding like, literally sound like someone was running across the floor, but it wasn't like they were taking it's like they were taking these long strides. If you could imagine someone, instead of just running where they got a full stride, like someone was kind of leaping, taking these leaping strides, like bloom, 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 bloom. And so we all like, oh man, here we go again. And one of the guys, Phil says, hey man, let's go up there and check it out. So I'm like, nah, I don't really want to do it. We all decided we're going to go up there. So we go up through the back, up to the second floor, and there literally is very little light. So we're using our cell phones, and there's no light switch up there. So we're using our cell phones to kind of look and see. And so we don't see anything. Nobody's up there, but we clearly see where the mannequins are. I was the second person up the steps. And when you come up the steps and kind of make this left turn, there was a mannequin right there. Like while you're at the top of the steps, you could use your left hand and just slap it across the head if you wanted to. That's how close it is, right? So we all go back downstairs, finish playing poker, smoking cigars. Somebody's telling a story about, one of the guys is telling a story about something that happened in the Philippines, like a Philippine mafia story. We just like hanging out. And then we hear it again. So we go back upstairs. Now, all of us came back downstairs at the same time. Nobody stayed up there alone. We go back upstairs. The mannequin that I should have been able to slap with my left hand as I was going up at the top of the steps, that thing was 9 feet back on a diagonal going towards the center of the room. The one that was off on the far right side that was by the wall had moved forward into a corner. And then the other ones had moved further back. Pretty much they were right above us where we were playing poker at. That's their position. Like where the poker table was, if you were to look above your head, that's where those mannequins were. And I was freaked out. I was ready to go, but the guys that I was with, I didn't want to come across as no little lame, scared guy. So he's like, we don't worry about it. We're going to go finish playing poker. So we played poker for like another hour or two. We didn't hear anything else. And then I went home. But those are the kind of encounters that I've had. And I mean, maybe Halloween night, I may have one of those guys calling on my little live stream to talk about it. But those are a lot of the encounters that I've had. Just crazy, weird, freaky stuff, man. Just crazy stuff.
That is really cool. And it sounds familiar. I've had a couple of other experiences myself that were somewhat along those lines. I had one, it was not a mannequin, but it was actually a doll that my eldest daughter had. That doll loved to move around. But my daughter loved that doll and did not want to get rid of it, no matter how much I tried to push the issue. But yeah, it's weird. Do you have any idea why these things were occurring in that spot?
Well, that building is extremely old. I want to say that building is like 180 years old. It used to be, at one point in time, it was a storefront with a stable in the back. Before that, it was a place where they held slaves. Before, I think right after, it was a place where they actually held slaves in bondage. It was a place where they held tobacco and sugar and a whole. So there's been hundreds of people who've lived and died in that building, in that, you know, in that 1 block radius. So I'm pretty sure it's one of the spirits just messing around with us. You know, it wasn't nothing threatening. It wasn't like you felt like, oh my God, it's going to kill me. But it was just like, oh, I'm going to have some fun with these bums and scare them. And that's what it did.
You know, I always said if I ever became a ghost myself, that's pretty much what I would do. I would go to, you know, someplace and just totally mess with people just for the fun of it. What else are you going to do? You're just wandering around, right?
Yep, that's what you do. Just go ahead and mess with it. Especially if I can't get to the final destination, I'm going to be left hanging around. Oh, I'm just going to scare the hell out of people. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, I figured if nothing else, I can, you know, go to the nearest house of a pedophile or something and just completely screw their life up, you know, and make their life a living hell if I could, you know, just to say, hey, at least I'm doing something.
At least I'm trying something. Maybe you guys can give me a repeat chance at getting in the big pearly gates. Huh?
There you go. Exactly. All right. Well, Dark, why don't we go ahead and hit this break here? We'll take it a couple of moments early. And during the break, I sent you an email with my my Skype ID. It's JDA Film. If you want to hook up with me on Skype, we can do it with the dramatized way when we come back. How's that sound to you?
Okay. Let me try and get that done now while we're on the break. Then.
Okay. And if you can't, it's not a problem. Just go ahead and call back in with the number, and we'll just do it this way. It's no problem to me. So.
Sounds good, buddy.
All righty. Well, you guys are listening to Open Eyes, and we are here with our LNM Spookathon. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it so far. I know I am. This is a great show, I think, and I'm, at least according to the chat room, everybody seems to be enjoying it. So, yeah, anyways, if you guys want to call in, 260-494-3937. He's made the offer that the callers that call in, they're going to get a free subscription to his website. And I'll tell you what, it's worth it. It's a very cool thing. So make sure you guys call on in. LNMRadioNetwork.com is the place to be. Come on over, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
You can listen to the LNM Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from LNMRadioNetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go.
Welcome to the LNM Spookathon. Please take a seat. There's one right there waiting for you. We hope you enjoy the 24 hours of live broadcasts with our hosts, and if you do like what we bring you on this network, please donate to keep us on the air. If you want to help us on a monthly basis, the subscription is available for you as well. Simply go to the website, LNMRadioNetwork.com, and click on the subscribe or donate buttons. We depend on you to help us keep great things like this happening. Stay tuned. There's so much more coming right up.
Available now, Troll Spray. Do you have problems with trolls? Do you constantly find yourself turning on the light of truth and find they come out of the woodwork after you? Give your trolls a quick squirt of Troll Spray, and you'll be amazed at how quickly they flee. Troll Spray has been tested on all of the different types of trolls: shills, false prophets, doomsayers, sock puppets, and, of course, those ever-fearsome hostile radio show hosts. It works on them all. Get Troll Spray today, available only at LNM Radio Network. Spray the trolls away with Troll Spray. From the author of Silent Steps and Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown, comes a story so chilling it will haunt you for years to come. Krista is a young woman escaping her past, running away from her family, her traumas, and her God, hoping to find a new life in a different town. But when she is forced to make a horrible choice, she comes to realize malevolent entities have controlled the true darkness she has been a part of. That is when her real terror begins. Penitence is disturbing and evocative. It will tear down the walls between what is real and what is nightmare. Penitence is the new novel by the man called the new master of speculative fiction, Ira Robinson. Find it and all of his books at his website, originalworlds.com.
Do you need toner for your Epson, Hewlett-Packard, Canon, Brother, Apple, or Sharp printers? Look no further than Laser Technologies. In business for over 20 years, they offer the lowest prices on toner on the web. They can also repair your laser printers and toners fast and easy. Call their expert staff today at 561-792-9600 or email us at service@laser-technologies.com for all your toner needs. All toner is shipped nationwide. Why wait? Get the lowest prices on toner. Call or email us today.
The LNM Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an LNM subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. If you want to call in tonight, we are live with our LNM Spookathon. Call on in. 260-494-3937 is the number. Our Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're over in the chat room at lnmradionetwork.com. And don't forget, we're also live streaming onto YouTube at youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. Hopefully, y'all are enjoying the show so far tonight. I am indeed. We have Dark Waters with us tonight, and he's a great guest. Absolutely fascinating, and I'm loving him so far. And you guys can check out his channel as well on YouTube. Just look up Dark Waters on the YouTube search, and it'll come up with his channel right there. Very, very interesting channel and a lot of great content over there. Dark, we are back. Can you hear me okay over there?
Yeah, I can hear you. Are you getting pretty loud and clear?
Yes, we're hearing you great. So we switched you over to the Skype line there.
And that's so much more comfortable than that phone, buddy. I tell you, it's way more comfortable.
Oh, yeah. I know how it is. So before we hit the break there, we were getting into some of the stories that you tell, and you had an offer to play us a couple of others when we came back from the break. I'm looking forward to hearing some more.
I want to try and play one, but I'm not sure if the sound is going to come through, so I think we need to toy with it just a little bit. Unless you want me to just try it and see, because I didn't set up for it, but I think it may be ready to go.
If you want to try it. But I want to also
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, if you want to try it, go ahead. And if it doesn't work, you can always send the file to me over Skype, and I can play it through mine. So.
All right. Well, let's give it a try. What about language? Do I need to grab one that's really, really clean, or are we okay?
The only thing we don't look for is the F-bombs. Anything else we're okay with. It's fine. As long as it's not like excessive, you know.
I need to tell you a story while I search for one that I know is perfectly clean, because some of these have F-bombs. So we'll get. Let me go back to telling you what about the stuff that was going on in Cigar Factory. So that particular place, again, I was going to that place for over, I man, it had to be over 13 years. It had to be over 13 years that I was going back and forth, hanging out at that place. And then that time frame, they had a number of secretaries that worked there. I think during the time I was there, they went through 3 different secretaries. And because the owners, all 3 of the owners are very good friends of mine, I would have what you call exclusive access to the building. So the business would open up at 10 o'clock. I would be let in the business at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? I could walk in, get my cigars. When the cigar rollers were coming to go to work, I was going to work with them. I was walking in to get my cigars. And there was a young lady, this had to be 2007. Yeah, 2007, 2008. She was the secretary at that point in time. And I would go in the morning to get my cigars because I was running my construction company. And I would be out and about the whole day, chasing people with bats, making sure they was doing this for all kind of crazy stuff. Because that was post-Katrina New Orleans. And construction during post-Katrina New Orleans was something horrific. But I would go there and get my cigars in the morning. Well, one morning I go in and she says, hey, I know you got to go to work, but could you just hang around with me for a little while? And because I'm not feeling too safe. And I'm like, you bugging out. What's wrong? You know, she's like, well, just sit with me and you'll understand. So I'm sitting there smoking a cigar, asking her about her son. And we're kind of going back and forth, just having conversations. And then above us, it sounds like someone drops a bucket of bricks, like, and on wood. So you know how if you were to take 5 or 6 bricks and drop them out of your arms from waist high, it's not like they're just going to thud, like boom. They're going to hit the ground and then they're going to roll. That's exactly what it sounded like someone was dropping bricks and they were rolling. And they would roll up, hit the ground and settle in place. And I was like, what is that? And she's like, that's why I wanted you to stay. And so I'm like, is somebody upstairs? And she's like, no. So I go up the steps. And this building has, just to describe the building, what I was describing to you earlier was the back side of the building where there's it's kind of divided to where it's 2 buildings. Well, this front portion of the building has a set of steps that lead upstairs above the office. So I go upstairs above the office. There's literally nothing in the room, nothing on the floor. There's no boxes. There's nothing up there. It's completely empty. They don't even store anything up there. So I'm like, whoa, what was that? Come back downstairs and I'm like, okay, sweetie, that was weird. She's like, it's been happening every morning. She says, almost like someone is just dropping bricks or dropping rocks, big rocks up there. So we continue talking for a little while. Then we maybe talk for like another 15 minutes. And then we hear it again. Now, both of us go upstairs and we just freaking out like, yo, I'm not seeing anything. Well, there was one of the cigar rollers that was from the Dominican Republic. She was heavy into voodoo. So she comes to work. And so I don't speak Spanish very well. And so we have to wait for, at that point in time, I had a personal cigar roller that rolled my cigars. I wait for my cigar roller to get there. And I have her translate to the woman who was in the voodoo or hoodoo, one of the two. I think it may have been hoodoo she was into. And so I say, ask her if there are any spirits in this building that are restless. And so she starts naming off the spirits that are in the building. She said there's 2 construction workers. She said there's 4 slaves. She said there were 2 little girls. She said there was one very, very dark shadow being that was very dark and had bad energy. And also she said that there was the building owner, the original owner, was still in the building. So the building was infested with spirits. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow, yeah.
So that's one of the things that I've experienced. This is not somebody else's stories. These are the things that I've experienced in my lifetime growing up here in New Orleans, because it's really a place of mystery, a place where, you can come down here, enjoy yourself, have fun, have drinks, hang out, bada bing, bada boom. And the next thing you know, you experience something freaky. And most people kind of write it off as, oh, I drank too much that night. No, it didn't have anything to do with what you were drinking. You experienced something legitimately freaky.
That area, anywhere down in that zone, has been occupied by humans for a really long time. So it's not just the the modern day things that are there that could potentially cause hauntings, but things that have happened for literally thousands of years down in that area could also be impacting things there too.
Absolutely. And that's that's the one weird thing. That's the one weird thing I would say about the city. You got to realize how many traumatic events have happened here. I mean, in the city, if you go back just in the past 40 years, you've had two major hurricanes that pretty much wiped the city out and killed countless people. You go back further than that, there was a whole bunch of activity here during the Civil War. You go into slavery and the countless number of people that came here from Africa. Then you go into the other slaves that were brought in through here, because it wasn't just black slaves that were brought here from Africa. Then you go into the immigrants that came to the city, who came of their own free will, but then were preyed upon and taken advantage of in the city. So, I mean, it's so much that it's nearly impossible to trace it back to the exact root cause of it. It's almost, I call it like a paranormal gumbo. I mean, you got a little bit of everything that's happened here.
That's a good way to put it. I like that. I like that. With you talking about that and the girl asking you to stay and help her out, it reminded me, this wasn't necessarily paranormal, but it reminded me of a situation that I had. I was working at a call center. I was the only one that worked there at night, and it was basically an answering service for different doctors and businesses after they closed off for the day. And one of the people that called in all the time, and I got to know pretty well because, again, I was the only one that worked there at night, and he'd call and just kind of hang out for a moment, was a guy that owned a mortuary that was in town. And one night we had this massive storm roll through the city, and it knocked the power out through the whole city. And my building and only a couple of others were the only ones that had backup generators that were automatically kicked on when the power went off. A few minutes after the power went off, I ended up getting a call from this guy that runs the mortuary. And he said, "Hey, Ira." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Would you mind hanging on the phone with me for a little while?" I said, "Well, sure. No problem. What's up?" And he said, "Well, I've been doing this business for a number of years now, and I've never been queasy about doing it, never been scared about doing it. But I'll tell you what, I got two bodies down here, and being down here in the dark, it's freaking me out a little bit." So he asked if I could stay on the phone. I mean, here you've got this guy, he's done this kind of stuff for a number of years, and even just being in the dark down there, it really creeped him out bad.
I know, I could imagine that would, man. I could not do that. My girlfriend she's a hairstylist. And so we were talking about her moving to New Orleans. She's like, "Well, I think I'm going to get a job doing hair on the dead body so I can make them look good when they go for the funeral." And I'm like, "What?" I can make them look. I said, "You what?" You know how you have a moment where you're like, "Wait, what did you just say?"
Yeah.
I can't believe you just said that. And she's like, "No, the people get paid great money for doing it." I said, "Man, you're not finna be touching dead people every day and then come touching them. What's wrong with you?"
I love it.
Woman?
That sounds like something my wife would love to do too.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, no. But hey, she's had her own kind of ghostly encounters, but it's amazing because she's one of those people that will ignore it. Like, she'll just be like, "Oh yeah, babe, did you hear that? Yeah, I heard it." "Well, you don't think that's weird?" "I don't really care, as long as it don't bother me." And she'll just go on about her business and ignores it.
That's kind of how I am with, my wife is sort of that way. She's always fascinated with things, and I experience it all the time. I'm just one of those weird people that I see them, and if I don't see them, I at least know when they're around. And she, oh, there's one, "Oh, well, tell me all about it." No, it's fine. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I've tried I've just to share another personal encounter with you guys. And while I'm doing this, I'm getting the stuff that we need. I alluded to earlier, this thing that for about, it had to be for about 2-3 weeks, it would literally just try and scare me, and aggravate me. And I came to the conclusion that that's all it wanted to do was just get under my skin and agitate me. And the minute I started getting angry and was no longer, frightful or afraid, it went away. But for the most part, man, it was one of those things to where I was waking up, and Heather Wade was the one that actually came up with the right words to describe how I felt and describe the sensation. She was like, well, Dark, you were experiencing terror. She's like, you may have been afraid before in life and experienced fear, but what you were experiencing was terror. Because I would wake up, and I would wake up from my sleep and be like, and I would be, literally shivering. And I had never experienced anything like that, and I've experienced some wild stuff in my lifetime, but I've never experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
So I'm laying in bed one night, and it happens, and it gets to the point to where it happened so much that when I will first wake up, and in this case, this night I woke up, my left leg was literally elevated in the air, like something was pulling me. And I woke up and I was afraid. I was frightened. I was pretty much terrorized. But then I guess you can say my conscious mind kicked in. Like, how there's that state where you half sleep and half woke, and it's almost like your spirit body is awake before your actual conscious mind is awake.
Oh, yeah.
There's like a divide,
Yep.
When the part that's associated with my personality woke up, that part of me was mad. It was like, yo, you know what? This got to stop. Like, this whole pulling me in my sleep, I'm trying to rest, bugging me. And like, I spazzed out in the house, screaming and fussing. And then I started praying. And after that night, I didn't have any more of those encounters or those experiences. Now, every night I say my prayers religiously. I'm so serious about saying my prayers at night that, because I know I work a lot of hours, that I'll just lay in the bed and fall asleep. I actually have recorded myself praying on my YouTube channel. There's a prayer called the Hedge Prayer of Protection. I make sure that before I go to bed, if I can't, say the prayer myself because I'm going to sleep, I make sure I hit play and let it play out loud in my house. And I just think it through, and then I'll pass out and go to sleep. Because I've had some very, very crazy stuff happen around me, man. Just insane stuff.
There's definitely power in prayer, that's for sure. I say, even if you're not a religious person or any kind of religious background, praying is still a worthwhile venture to do. Prayer, meditation, thoughts, they're all kind of one and the same. It all is the same energy that takes place, and it makes a big difference in things, to say the least.
No, absolutely. And I tell people all the time, and there's certain people out here who listen to my stories, and I think in their mind, it's like I make this stuff up, right? So they're like, oh, there's no consequence for what you do because you make it up. And then there's other people who are associated with me, who are very, very close to me, that kind of have been around since the very beginning, that I talk to on the phone regularly, and they know how real it is, because they'll call me and I'll be like, listen, I got to call you back. Like, what's wrong? You seem upset and this and this and then. I'm like, I am upset. This is what's happening and this is what's going on. And I say all that to say that prayer has been my prayer life, and my understanding and my spiritual growth that has happened since I started doing this has been exponential, because most people go through life wondering. And I guess this is kind of the takeaway for me. And if anybody can take anything from this dealing with the paranormal, most people go through life wondering, is God real? Is there something on the other side of death? Are there other things out there outside of myself? Is there something else in the universe? How did we get here? The way I view the paranormal activity is confirmation that not only there's a God that exists, but there's, because there's not only good exists and there's a God, there has to be evil, therefore the counterbalance of that God, because some of the things I've experienced have been pretty, rugged. And I'm like, nah, that's something evil that's coming through trying to bug me, bother me. You know what I'm saying? So, I've had encounters with both,
ghosts of people that have actually passed over, and I've had experiences with demons as well, and other things besides. And I'll tell you, yes, absolutely, both exist, and I'm living proof of it. I've seen them, I've interacted with them. My wife, she's a person that has experienced a near-death experience. She passed over to the other side when she was very young, and she remembers the whole experience. And the way that I look at things is, if I didn't believe in this stuff, it would sort of force me to be in sort of an intolerable decision. I would have to either decide that she was crazy and I didn't believe her, or that I did believe her, and it would change my whole belief system around. But thankfully I already believed her without having to worry about that, but there are people that are out there that experience these things. They've had these near-death experiences. They've crossed over to the other side and they remember everything, every little detail about what happened to them over there.
No, that's true. I had a close friend of mine, and he's still a close friend of mine. I just don't talk to him as much as he was a military contractor at one point in time. He had experience where he died. He was gone for 3 minutes, and when he died, he literally saw himself laying on the table. He saw the doctors racing around trying to save him. He saw everything that was going on, but then he saw his grandfather, and his grandfather told him he had to go back because he wasn't done yet. And then he woke back up, and when he woke up, the doctors had the sheet over his head. Like, this guy's dead. And it was like, whoa, where you come from, bro? They had given up on him and everything. He just came back. And so it's crazy, but the paranormal exists and it's real. And as far as I'm concerned, it's something to be learned from. And it's just not something to spook you or be afraid of. Although my intentions with my stories, pretty much is to scare you, but it's something to be learned from the stories. There's a lot more to it than just being afraid.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And, I'll tell you, I know you've got a couple of stories that you want to do here. And I'll tell you, though, before we do those, for those that have encountered the paranormal, the spirits and stuff, a lot of people do experience that terror sensation that you were describing and being very afraid, and that's sort of the instant thing that comes to them even before they see or understand that there's anything happening to them there. And I think one of the things that ends up happening is, at least in my own experiences, it seems to me that the spirits that come to you, they're trying to get their story across. They're trying to say, hey, I'm here. I exist. I'm real. I want you to understand that this is what happened to me. And in the process of that, not all people, die when they've got their loved ones around them in a bed and they just fall asleep and don't wake back up. Some people die in very horrific kind of ways. And so I think that the spirits, they still carry that those last moments with them sometimes. And so if you encounter one, maybe the emotions that you're feeling of terror and fear and dread and all of that are actually not from you, but from the spirit. And that's what is being sent to you, being displayed to you, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense, that maybe they're projecting that to you.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations with people who, I would get, every now and then I'll get on a radio interview and someone would give me that hypothetical question, which I really hate answering hypotheticals. They say, well, if a spirit came to you and it was trying to send you a message that what happened to it and how it died, would you help it or would you banish it? I said, I'm going to banish it. And you're like, what? I'm banishing it. And they're like, well, why would you banish it? Because it's dead. It had its opportunity to live. I'm living my life and I need to live mine before something happens to me. So I'm banishing it. And that's my philosophy on it. I don't, the concept and the idea of, the suffrage of spirit forms, although there may be some merit to the fact that there are spirits that are out there suffering and that are not doing well and that are plagued or terrorized or caught in loops. I mean, I think there may be a lot of merit to that concept, but at the same time, I'm not, here to save the manatees or save the world. I'm here to save myself and do the best I can do for my family.
Yeah.
And I'd rather focus on that than run around focus on, helping dead people who've already had their opportunity at life, no matter how tragic it was that, they passed on.
Absolutely understandable. Yeah. And I've known a couple of other people that have felt that same way. And, I never disparage them that in any kind of way. It's like, most of the time for me, I either ignore it or, kind of acknowledge and move on when I encounter one of these things. I don't really ever go out of my way to, help them cross or anything along those lines, unless it's, I don't know, I'm in the mood at that moment or something like that. But I don't let them come into my home. You know, that my home is my sacred space. You know, if it's, I look at it sort of as a business, you know, okay, I know you're there, but you're not welcome in my home. And if you want to encounter me when I'm out, that's fine, but you're not welcome here. You see what I mean?
No, and that's the smart thing, man. You have to have your place of peace.
Yeah.
You just can't have anything invading that space.
Exactly. Well, we've got about, about 10, 15 minutes before we hit the next break here. Do you have one that's ready to go, or?
Yep, I got one ready to go. I'm pretty sure that this one is clean. This is actually one of them that's going to be on the album. And I recorded this last night, so I remember every word I said. So I'm pretty sure this is clean. So,
okay.
All right. Hopefully it'll come through. I think it's going to work. Let's give it a shot. The events that I'm about to share with you happened when I was in my early 20s. At the time, I was dating this guy who I thought was going to be the love of my life. His name was Peyton. We had been together since high school. I'm talking about prom king and queen. Everyone thought we were this perfect couple. But when Peyton graduated and didn't get into college, he started to have this drinking problem. And then 6 months after that, he became a full-blown alcoholic. This all happened on a Thursday night. Now, Peyton and I were supposed to meet up at his place and then head out for a hamburger. Peyton didn't have a car, so I borrowed my parents' car and drove over to his place to meet him. Now, I got to be honest with you about some things. Back in those days, I was notorious for driving around on an empty tank. And you got to understand, I had to beg my dad to let me use his 1951 Cadillac Coupe. And I know it's stupid, but it was just my habit. So when I headed on out to Peyton's house, I literally drove by every gas station on the way. Partially because I didn't have any money, and also Peyton normally paid for the gas. I just brought the car. So now I get to Peyton's house, and he lived about 15, 20 minutes away, a little bit outside of Oxford, Alabama. So I get to his house, and I'm expecting Peyton to be there, just him. But nope, it's him and his new friend, John. Now, to tell you a little bit about John. John was that guy in high school that was Peyton's exact opposite, and somehow, some way, after high school, these two became close friends. John was nothing but trouble. He stayed in and out of jail. He was drinking. He used drugs. He just ended up being a very, very bad influence on Peyton. So now we're all at the house. Peyton and John are drunk, and I don't mean regular drunk. I mean sloppy drunk. John starts making moves on me, grabbing me by my waist, grabbing me by my back, trying to run his hands up my skirt. And I look over at Peyton, and he's laughing. He's literally laughing like it's funny. I was so pissed off about this. I grabbed the keys and stormed out of the house. Started driving home. I was so angry that I didn't even think about the fact that the car was on empty. So I'm driving, and I get right to Hellgates Bridge, and the car runs out of gas. Now, there was still a little sunlight, so I wasn't panicked. I immediately hopped out of the car, opened the trunk, and looked for a gas tank, because my dad, he was the type of guy that always kept the gas can in the back of the trunk, right? So I get out of the car, open the trunk, there's a gas can there. Yes, I know I'm saved. I go to shake it, and it's absolutely empty. Now, my car's parked on the bridge. I'm standing there, leaning on the driver's side door with the trunk open, and I start to see a truck coming down the road headed towards the bridge. Two black men pull up, stop. Ma'am, is there something we can do to help you? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Can you give me a ride to the gas station where I can get some gas and then get my car running? They both look at me and laugh. The man on the passenger side says, listen, I'm not finna get lynched or shot messing around with some white woman on the side of the road. Now, what we could do for you is We can go tell somebody where you are, and they can come back to get you. But we're not about to put you in this truck. I thought about it for a second. I told him, hey, go to my boyfriend's house, let him know where I am and that I ran out of gas, and then him and his friend John will come get me. So the two guys drive off. 10 minutes pass, 20 minutes pass, 30 minutes pass. It gets to be an hour later, and it's about to get dark. And I realized that I'm going to have to take matters into my own hands. So I started walking off the bridge, down the roadway, headed back towards Peyton's house. Now I'm walking, and to describe it to you, it's a dirt road. On the right-hand side is some woods, and on the left-hand side is some woods. On the left-hand side, beyond the woods, is a river. I'm walking, and I start to hear what sounds like raindrops. You know how it sounds when rain is falling on leaves? Like a light drizzle on the leaves. That sound. Well, it's not raining, and it's starting to creep me out. And then I start to hear heavy movement. I mean heavy movement, like someone walking in the tree line, and it freaks me out. Now, I can say I probably walked about 400 to maybe 450 yards when I started hearing this sound. And as I'm walking back to my car, it sort of looks like someone sitting in a car from a distance. I wasn't sure. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me because it was getting pretty dark. But as I got closer, I was absolutely certain that someone was sitting in the back seat of my car. I get about 15 feet away, and now it's clear. Someone's there. I walk around to the driver's side door, lower my head and look in, and there's a man sitting in my back seat, staring at me. And then I see the freakiest thing. This man has water running out of his orifices, but not clear water. This kind of murky, dark, brownish water running out of his nose, eyes, ears. And then he goes to open his mouth like he was about to speak, and water spills out of his mouth, rolling down his chin and onto his neck. Oh my God, I completely freak out and take off running, headed down that roadway. And I run as far as I can until I ran out of breath. Then I kept walking till I got to a service station. When I got to the service station, I called Peyton, tell him what's going on. Him and John come to pick me up. Now, when Peyton gets there, I'm absolutely hysterical because something weird is going on around here. We hop in John's truck and we head back to the bridge. Now, when we get there, there's nobody in the car. But the craziest thing is, Peyton opened the driver's side door. And when we looked at the back seat, it was soaking wet, filled with water, like someone took buckets of water and dumped them on the leather in the back seat. And at first, I don't think Peyton believed what I told him. But when Peyton saw that dirty water on the back seat, he freaked out. And that's when John told us he heard years ago that a couple drove off the bridge and into the river. And that same couple haunted that bridge. And anyone who ever stopped or stalled on the bridge would see the man or the woman standing there on the back seat of their car or just looking at them. Now, I know what I saw that evening was real. And the one thing I took away from this experience was that I have never, ever driven around on an empty tank of gas again.
I think I would avoid driving on an empty gas tank myself.
That's why ladies should always keep gas in the car, man. Like she was bugging.
Yeah.
Sweetest old lady I ever talked to. But she's like, she's like, DW, I've never had my tank not be on full since that day. She's like, I'm the now that when I get down, when I have 3/4 of a tank of gas, I go put another fourth in to make sure my tank is full.
Absolutely.
She had me cracking.
You know, there's a bridge that's not far away from where we live here that definitely has a story of its own. There was a couple that were driving, and the guy was drunk and ended up getting into a race with another guy. And as they were driving down the road, the car that they were in ended up going off the side of the bridge, and the bodies of the driver and his wife were found, but they never found the body of the baby that was in the back seat. And if you go to that bridge today, even right now, for some reason, you'll find underneath the bridge, there's baby clothes, there's, you'll find diapers and that kind of thing, just kind of scattered around all over the place. And maybe that's people putting that there kind of in tribute or something like that. But I swear every time I've gone to that bridge and I've taken people there, if we stop on the bridge, you can hear a baby crying. It's crazy, but it's the way it is.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy, man.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
It'll freak you out, man. It'll freak you out, to say the least, when you hear that baby start to wail, and it sounds like it's coming from a distance, but yeah, pretty scary.
No, I can imagine it is. I as a father, I could never see myself doing anything like that with kids in the car trying to drag race or anything. But people make such bad decisions sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Someone pays the permanent consequence for it.
Yep, absolutely. Well, listen, Dark, let's go ahead and hit our second break here. When we come back, I know you've got more for us, don't you?
Yep, got plenty more for you.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and hit this break then. If you guys want to call in and ask any questions or maybe tell a story of your own, we'd love to hear from you. 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Our Skype line is JDA Film. And as always, we're over here in the chat room at LNMRadioNetwork.com having our Spookathon. And boy, what a great start for the Spookathon. We had Paranormal Soup on before me, and now we've got this great show going on now. So make sure you guys stay tuned, and don't forget Michael Vera will be next with his show with a 5-hour special tonight. And I'll be back again in the morning myself, starting at 7 o'clock a.m. Stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes, folks. Ben Franklin said, "If you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today." Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthemidlands.com, because things really do need to change. There are days that the red pill is bitter in my stomach, but I can't get it back out. I think because I have to. I speak because I have no choice. I walk through this dark age we're in with open eyes. Listen to Open Eyes on latenightinthemidlands.com, and together, maybe we won't stumble and fall. Have you ever heard of Audible? Audible is a website with hundreds of thousands of audiobooks. They're all high quality, easy to listen to, and, best of all, if you take advantage of a special deal that we've worked out for you, you can get one for free. That's right, a free audiobook of your choice in any genre, simply by going to audibletrial.com/openeyes and signing up for the free trial. It's simple to do, and it would support the shows that we bring to you, and hey, you get a free book out of the whole thing. So why not take advantage of it today? Go to audibletrial.com/openeyes and sign up for the trial. Welcome to the LNM SPOOKATHON. Please take a seat. There's one right there waiting for you. We hope you enjoy the 24 hours of live broadcasts with our hosts, and if you do like what we bring you on this network, please donate to keep us on the air. If you want to help us on a monthly basis, the subscription is available for you as well. Simply go to the website, lnmradionetwork.com, and click on the subscribe or donate buttons. We depend on you to help us keep great things like this happening. Stay tuned. There's so much more coming right up. Dark secrets lie within the pages of Haunted, finding an explanation for the unknown. Within the dark of night, subtle sounds can be heard. Unseen hands reach out to touch, stirring echoes of past nightmares and paranoia. In Haunted, finding an explanation for the unknown, you will read chilling true stories of hauntings, demonic possessions, and everything that goes bump in the night as we explore the hows and whys of haunted houses and more. Ira Robinson has not only been a man who has personally experienced the paranormal, but an investigator for many years as well, and brings his expertise to bear on this mysterious subject. What did our ancient ancestors think of the spirit world? What did they do as a response to their own paranormal experiences? Are the tools people use today to communicate with the spirit world not only appropriate, but safe to use? Can the dead return to us in some way in order to help us or harm us? You will find an answer to these questions and much more in Haunted, Finding an Explanation for the Unknown. Don't be afraid. The keys to understanding are in your hands. Find this book and all of his others at Ira Robinson's official website, originalworlds.com.
LNM fans and late-nighters around the world, have you captured something on that photo or video of yours? Send in your photos and videos of ghosts, orbs, UFOs, Planet X, or just about anything content related by submitting them to the Late Night in the Midlands Facebook group or fan page, or you can submit them on Twitter using hashtag LNM Radio. And if you would rather stay anonymous, then email them to us at mv@latenightinthemidlands.com. We will share them at our new fan page on the LNM website and may even ask you to come on air a few minutes and tell us about your photo or video. Late Night in the Midlands. We're building a bridge to the truth and beyond.
Welcome back to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. We're here tonight with Dark Waters and a really great guest. Absolutely fascinating stories so far, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. If you want to call in, 260-494-3937 is the call-in number. Skype line is JDA Film, and as always, we're over there in the chat room at LNMRadioNetwork.com. Don't forget, we're also streaming on YouTube at youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. And join in with us wherever you may be. And make sure you guys hit that subscribe button over there in the LNM Radio Network website. Hit the donate button. We are doing our Spookathon. This is our yearly drive to try to get some funding to make sure that this station stays on the air. And it would be deeply appreciated if you enjoy shows like this and Late Night in the Midlands, Show Us, Don't Tell Us, Paranormal Soup, etc., all the great shows that we have here on this network. Make sure you guys donate to keep it alive because we are here for you. Dark, we are back. Thanks for sticking around through the break with us there.
Oh, no, I'm happy to be. Creep me out with that Barney, man.
I love that one.
Yeah, that creeped me out because at first I'm sitting here listening. I'm like, yo, is that Barney? And then it starts whispering and turning. I'm like, did he just make Barney sound freaky, like scary? Like, really? Did you do that to Barney? But I always thought kind of freaky anyway. It was kind of big purple, kind of weirdo dinosaur, you know.
Yeah, Barney's always been disturbing to me, so.
Yeah, Barney and Mr. Rogers were two things that just didn't jive too well with me at all.
I don't disagree. Bob Ross was always a creeper for me too.
You know, Bob Ross Bob Ross was so cool though, man. Like Bob Ross painting with squirrels on his shoulders. He had the freaking afro, bro. And he'd be like, yeah, we're going to put a little tree over here, just a little tree. And this is the top of the mountain. Like, I watch Bob Ross to go to sleep, man.
Yeah.
And he puts me straight to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. I always thought, Bob Ross could do a great Halloween show himself. Okay, we're going to put a happy little tree over here, put a little snow on the mountain, and over here we're going to put a happy little psychopath.
And we're going to give him a little butcher knife. Look, let's just a little touch for the butcher knife. And, okay, let's put someone over it. Now they're bleeding from the head. Just a little bit of crimson red for the blood. Now the blood's on the snow.
Exactly.
I could literally, oh my God, we got to stop. Bob Ross.
So what else you got for us there, Dark? And by the way, the sound did come through perfectly fine, so no problem at all.
Okay, this one is actually a vampire story from New Orleans that I have for you guys. I was trying to download these stories, the clean versions, in between the breaks, which I was hoping it didn't mess up the audio. But this one was told to me by a gentleman who actually is from Arkansas. He's not from New Orleans, and he was here after Katrina. And after you hear the story, I'll really dive deep into how I ended up speaking with him. And that's very intriguing, just how I ended up meeting this guy and talking to him, which was through another gentleman who shared a bunch of vampire encounters with me locally. So we'll discuss that and let you hear this, and we'll talk about it as soon as it's over then.
Sounds great to me.
All right, buddy.
There's a moon over Bourbon Street tonight. I see faces as they pass beneath the pale lamplight. I've no choice but to follow that call. The bright lights, the people, and the moon and all. I pray every day to be strong, for I know what I do must be wrong. Oh, you'll never see my shade or hear the sound of my feet while there's a moon over Bourbon.
I worked in New Orleans as an adjuster after Hurricane Katrina. During that time, there was not much entertainment other than the strip clubs on Bourbon Street. You see, the majority of the city was still dark. I only had a few people in FEMA trailers, and they were scattered around in different neighborhoods. So my workmates and I would spend the entire day knee-deep in mold and muck, trying to determine the values of people's property, and by the time the day was done, all we wanted to do was go and have a drink. Rick Strip's Club, I'll never forget it. Steak and fries for $12. And happy hours became a huge part of our lives. Not because of the dances, they were nice, but because of the camaraderie and having friends all together to hang out. It was a Friday night, and I was staying at the Harris Casino Hotel. So after we finished eating and drinking, I started on my walk to the hotel. I walked from Bourbon Street down St. Louis till I got to Decatur. Then I crossed the street and cut through the parking lots on a diagonal towards Canal Place. Now, if you've never been in New Orleans, this won't make much sense. But at certain times of night, the city has this eerie feeling to it. And this feeling was only magnified by the fact that it was pretty much void of people. The further you got away from the French Quarters, the fewer people you saw. Look, the parking lot I was walking through was pretty well lit, and there were cars scattered around. But when I got to the parking garage near Canal Place, there was no one on that street. Baldine Street, I think is the name of it. It's more of an access road than a street. And when you walk around the side of the garage I was telling you about, you come out to the entrance of Harris Casino. So, I'm walking. And all of a sudden, a little fear creeps up in me. You know, it was quiet. I could hear noise coming from up the ramp leading to the parking garage. I paused for a second, said to myself, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not supposed to be afraid. There's nothing there. So I kept walking. I had gotten to Canal Street just where I could cross over and head into the casino when I heard a woman's high-heeled footsteps coming up behind me. Now, looking back on it, I know there was absolutely no one in this area at all. No cars in a small parking lot next to the building, and all the people were on the other side of the street at the casino. After hearing these footsteps, I stopped, turned and looked, and it was the most beautiful MILF I've ever seen in my life. She had to be 40 years old, and she was radiant. Had on a black wrap dress with a deep V-cut showing massive cleavage, and I was like, damn. Not even realizing that words were coming out of my mouth, I said, damn, where you coming from? That's when she smiled, and I swear to you, I was mesmerized. I don't even remember what she said back to me. The next thing I knew, we were in a casino at the bar having drinks. I was completely captivated by this woman. And you have to keep in mind, I had just left a strip club full of beautiful women and pretty much ignored all of them. But this woman, she had that it factor. She told me her name was Omega. I'll never forget it. I kept making these stupid jokes about time. Get it, Omega to watch? But here's where things started to get strange. She went to the bathroom, and while she was gone, the bartender, this young black guy with dreadlock, he says, listen, bro, you need to let that one slide. Find another chick. I can close your tab, and you can leave if you like. I'm thinking to myself, he must be stupid or blind. Maybe he's gay. But shit, I ain't going nowhere. Then this dude actually took it upon himself to close my tab. And right when he was returning with my bill, Omega sat down again. He looked at me and said, it was my pleasure serving you tonight. Is there anything else I can do for you? And then I noticed something. This glance she gave him was so cold and lifeless. His hand started to shake as he placed the little black book with the receipt right on the counter in front of me. Then he walked out. And by walked out, I mean this dude walked out of the bar area of the casino headed towards the slots. Looking back on it, I was drinking a bit. But what happened next, I can't even explain. Omega kissed me, and it wasn't some movie type tongue in the mouth kiss. It was just a simple lip-to-lip kiss. And that was all I remember when I woke up. And by woke up, let me define for you what I mean. It was the very next day, and I was sitting in my work truck parked outside of a house on Bullitt Avenue. Bullitt Avenue is in New Orleans East, over 20 miles away from downtown. I was completely up in the head. I hopped out of the truck and started patting my body and checked for my wallet, my money, my credit cards. I had everything from last night. I even had the receipt from the bar. But I had no clue of how I got there. At this point, I'm totally freaking out. So I drive back downtown and I go to the hotel, up to my room and look around. Nothing seemed out of place. All my shit was still there. So I went to the bar. Masquerades was the name of it back then. I sat at the bar and I waited until that bartender showed up. The first thing I said was, yo, tell me why you wanted me to leave the bar last night. But this dude was real paranoid. And I don't mean paranoid in a crazy, sweaty, drugged out way. I mean paranoid like he didn't want anybody to know that we were talking. He kept looking around. And he would turn his back to me while he was talking. Just some totally weird shit. Then he said, bro, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Tried to warn you, man. Then he turns around and starts wiping the counter. And he says, switch hotels or she'll be back. You won't see her, but she'll be there. I'm like, what the f***? Come on, bro. What are you talking about? And I get loud, real loud. Then the dude walks off. The events of that day turned into a complete and total waste for me. So I headed back to my room determined to shake off the whole scenario. I told myself, f*** it, man, you must have been drinking too much. I watched TV for an hour or so. Then I went to bed early, about 8:45. The very next morning, when I woke up, I was laying in the bathtub naked. I'm like, oh, what is going on? I'm thinking, now that this is some organ harvesting type going on. This bitch done drugged me, and she done took my kidney. So I'm panicking. I'm checking my body, but nothing's wrong with me, not a scratch. After that, I checked out of the casino hotel. I switched over to the Hilton across the street. I went back to work. I figured the best thing for me to do was get back to work, and so I did. And then I met the guys that even at Rick's. So I'm sitting there in a VIP, telling everybody what happened to me. And it's a pretty large group. I'm telling my story. And I mention the name Omega. Then this one girl says, you've met Omega? I've heard of her. You know what she is, right? Now, the music didn't stop in the room or anything like that. Everyone was hanging on for the next word to come out of her mouth. Then she says, she's a vampire. I'm like, get the out of here. No, she's a vampire, the real deal. Tall white woman, great boobs, long legs, likes to wear black. Yeah, she's a vampire. Ask the bouncers. This girl calls the bouncer over, and he tells this story about how many dudes he's personally talked to who met this Omega. He tells the wildest stories I've ever heard about dudes waking up in weird places or waking up behind the steering wheel of moving cars. The rest of the night, I heard story after story about Omega, that she would appear when she needed to feed on someone's life force. Then she would be gone. Then months later, someone would start talking about it again. Man, I was so confused. I really, really, really didn't want to believe that. But I know for a fact I didn't get none that night. But something happened to me. I decided the best thing that I could do was to carry my ass back to Georgia. And that's what I did. 2 days later, I was out of there. I had made pretty good money. I wasn't about all that weird juju, mumbo, jumbo craze that was happening down in New Orleans.
That was a great one.
Vampires are here, bro.
I can believe it. That was a great one. Out of everywhere I would think vampires would hang out, New Orleans would be the place that they would go.
Yeah, they just running around drinking beers, hanging out, harassing people, just chilling, mingling with everybody else. But the way I met that gentleman, and I said he's from Arkansas, but it was Georgia he was from. The way I met that gentleman and started talking to him was actually through a retired NOPD officer who was the first person to bring to my attention that, you know, we had these entities or these people here, which are more so, there's a terminology for it, which is like blood-sucking vampires, and then there's these energy vampires.
Right.
Know the terms for them, but I don't know the actual exact name for them. It's in a book somewhere. Somebody can look it up, and you can, you know, maybe message me. But my whole concept of vampire was that it was like, you know, I want to suck your blood, you know, like what I grew up on TV.
Yeah.
But that's not what it is. It's actually these psychic vampires that drain people of their energy and their life force that are here in New Orleans. Which to me is actually a little bit more dangerous than the person with the teeth, because I'd be like, oh, you got teeth and you're floating around. At least I could shoot you. But dude walking up to you, draining you is a whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah.
But anyway, the officer started telling me this like a year and a half ago about this locally, that we had this phenomenon going on. But I didn't believe him. I was like, yo, bro, you tripping. I just told him, man, you tripping. I don't believe none of that foolishness. Like, what, you know, why would you even tell me that? But the problem was he was telling me bits and pieces of the stories. Then he started giving me the stuff to look up. Like, he's like, go to NOLA.com and type in this date and look up this article, and then read this, and then go here and you know, so it was going back to before he retired, where he was just sharing with me these little tidbits of, you know, this incident happened here, this incident happened here. And I was like, whoa, okay. This is starting to paint a clear picture. Then he started telling me his personal story that he had, where he encountered and how he came to the revelation that these things existed. And then how, because he agreed to not necessarily cover it up, but to just, you know, look the other way, how he was elevated from a regular, you know, beat cop to a traffic cop to a detective at such a rapid pace that that nobody had ever seen anything like that. So we definitely have some weird, crazy stuff here in my hometown of New Orleans.
Absolutely.
Weird.
You know, when it comes to energy vampires, I always talk about them quite frequently, actually, on my show, because I've encountered quite a few of them over my days as well. And there are some that are intentional. You know, they know what they're doing, and they're actually actively seeking that out. And I think there's some that are unaware that they're doing it. You know, and you can always tell when you're encountering one of those when you come across somebody, or if you're hanging out with people and you know, everything's fine, you're full of energy, full of joy, full of life, whatever, you know, just having a party or whatever. And then somebody walks into the room, and immediately you start to feel you're getting drained, and like oh man, I'm just tired and ready to go home, and you know, all that stuff. It's like right there, you just got hit by an energy vampire.
Oh no, I believe it now. I mean, I would, like, if you'd have told me, if you and I would have been on the radio having this conversation, you know, a year and a half ago, I would have muted my microphone and laughed at you. I'm like Irish tripping. He been drinking tonight, but I'll try. I believe you now, buddy. I believe 100. Oh my God. And that's the weird thing about doing this. You know, the average individual has a tough time expanding the context within their mind of how things work. And what this does is, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to this, what it does is it forces your context in which of how you think to stretch so far and so wide at such a rapid pace. You're just like, whoa. Hold on. If that exists, then what else exists that I'm not really aware of?
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, exactly. There, when you encounter a near-death experience, when you encounter a spirit, a UFO, or even just strange things that make you aware in a weird way, it tweaks your consciousness, and from that point forward, you start looking at things through that subconscious lens of not everything is as it seems.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you, the freakiest conversation I've ever had, and it just popped into my head, and you guys have to forgive me because literally I kind of indexed everything inside my head. I don't really write down anything in notes. Someone asked me a couple of interviews with the freakiest conversation I had, and I couldn't recall it. And it just came to me, was this gentleman who called me out of the blue, and he was like, Dog Waters, I want to help you open your third eye. And I'm nice to everybody. So let me preference this, what I told him with this. I'm totally nice to everybody who calls me. You get what you give with me. I'm just that type of person. So if you give me love, you're going to get love 10 times back. If you give me hate, you're going to get hate 40 times back. That's just how I am. And I say, bro, why do I want to open my third eye? And is your third eye open? He's like, yeah, my third eye is open. I said, well, why would you do something like that? It had to be closed for a reason. And I think he got offended because I think he thought I was, being smart about it. Right. But I was just running the question, like, why would you do something like that? I didn't even ask him how, because I didn't want that to seek into my head. And it's like, well, I wanted to see and know what was going on the other side. And I said, well, it's really none of your business what's going on the other side. I said, why are you concerned about what's going on the other side of the veil when you're living on this side of the veil, right? And so this guy goes on, he starts telling me stuff, like all kinds of stuff. He actually told me stuff about me personally that he said the spirits from the other side was telling him. And some of it was true. I mean, some of it was, he knew the high school I went to. He knew one of my high school girlfriend's names. He knew the other captain of the football team to which I went to high school. He knew that my high school had been demolished. He knew, this is the craziest thing, Ira. This dude knew my locker number in high school. That was crazy. Like that was crazy. I was like, and I had to actually visually go back and rewind in my mind and find the locker number. I remember what a locker was. It took me a while to visualize what it was and go back and see it. And I was like, oh my God, this dude really just gave me he gave me my locker number. So I'm like, whoa, you got something with you, but I'm not opening my third eye because I don't want to see anything freaky or weird. I got enough freaky, weird stuff going on. I'm not Cyclops around here.
I would think my first impression of that would be, are you stalking me? What, how did you find this information out?
Well, I know he's not stalking me because it's very, very difficult to find any information on me, especially that type of information.
Yeah.
Like, so most people in the paranormal community, like you're Ira Robinson, right? And so your Facebook page is Ira Robinson. And then you have friends on your Facebook page. Your mother, uncle, sister, brother may be your friends. But under my Dark Waters page, there are layers to what I do. Because I've been for so long, I've been involved in politics and doing opposition research on people for political campaigns. I know how to layer multiple layers above, all my personal information. So they're like 4 layers above my personal information online. And then when you actually get to my personal information online, there's nothing there. There's not much there. No friends, no, I don't really use the Facebook like everybody else uses. See, I call it the Facebook. You see what I'm saying? I don't really use Facebook like everybody else uses the Facebook or the Twitter. I just don't do that.
And then there were just some things that the only way he would have known some of those things is if he had went to high school with me.
Right.
But I know the guy didn't go to high school with me. You know, I know for a fact he didn't. So he was tapped into something pretty, powerful, and it's cool. I wasn't worried about him stalking me because he didn't give it. It wasn't like it was, oh, I'm going to tell you this and I'm going to tell you what you have for dinner and you need to be friends with me. It was just like, I'm offering you an opportunity to open your third eye in case you wanted to do it. And I was like, nah, bro, I'm good. I'm going to pass, And he was like, I love your work. You're cool, man. You're one of the coolest guys out there. And if you ever need me, call me. You know what I can do. And I was like, all right, I'm going to save your number. If I need something, I'll call you. And it's like, cool.
That is pretty cool. I don't know how I would react to somebody that was acting that way. I mean, I've encountered people in my life that have been very intuitive, and I'm pretty intuitive myself, but getting detailed information about their locker numbers in high school, I haven't been able to do that one yet. That's a pretty potent one.
Well, I've had these experiences over my life where even before the Dark Waters creation, whatever you want to call it, Dark Waters started. I remember being in, oh my God, I was in Baton Rouge at Barnes and Nobles. And this is way before, Starbucks kind of blew up and became very popular, but there was a Starbucks inside of there. And I was standing in line trying to figure out what I wanted for coffee. And in those days, I would go to Barnes and Nobles, read books, kind of play a few games of chess, just kind of to hang out, to decompress, because my life was very, very complicated at that point in time. And some of the people I was dealing with, you could not be around those people on a very consistent basis because they weren't really stable. There was a kind of testosterone-filled young men who didn't have fathers in their lives, and everything was ego-based, and everything was look at me, and very dangerous guys that, you just can't be around them. You have to get out of that environment. So this was my kind of safe haven. So I'm there trying to figure out what kind of coffee I want, and end up getting the coffee, and I sit down at a table, and this little old lady is sitting next to me. Actually, she's sitting there when I sit down, and I'm sitting there drinking a coffee, and I want to say I was reading a book. I want to say this was my first or my second time opening the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. I think this might have been my very first time opening that book, a book that I fell in love with. I love that book. And Robert's a great guy. We ended up becoming friends over the years. But and this lady, little old lady, starts telling me things about myself from my childhood. Things that, nobody really should know. She knew the church that I went to. She knew about when I was 9 years old, how the ladies who were in the black churches in New Orleans, they called them ushers. These are the ladies who kind of usher you to your seat, and they have on these white outfits and these white gloves and these big hats, and oh my God, it's a spectacle. But anyway, how these ushers of women were surrounding me, and they were telling me, you have a strong spirit and you got the hand of God on you. And the old lady said, they were prophesying over you, but they didn't understand what they were reading off of you. They thought they were prophesizing your destiny. Your destiny has already been written, and they were just reading your destiny. And this little old lady goes into stuff, man, that, like when I almost drowned when I was 7 in a canal. She goes into stuff that she couldn't know. And then she tells me, you have a powerful destiny and your blessing is your curse. She says, you're going to grow to be a man that whatever you do becomes successful. And you're going to be so good at whatever you do, it's going to be hard to do one thing. She said, do one or two things well, and then let it go. And she's just smiling, talking. And it freaked me out so much, Ira, that I'm like, I didn't know what to tell her. I didn't know to say thank you. I didn't know whether to get up and run. But she was like, don't worry, it's nothing to be afraid of. I just wanted to share that with you. And then she gets up and shuffles her little behind on out of the door and goes on about her business. So I've always had like these freaky, weird things happen to me throughout my lifetime. It's just that I wasn't prepared to share those things with the world. And I wasn't mature enough is the exact word. I wasn't mature enough to know what to do with it. Like now, as a 40-year-old man, I know what to do with it. I know that everything that we go through in life is not necessarily meant for us. It's meant for other people to learn from. And that the way you kind of heal yourself through whatever traumatic event or whatever experiences you have is by sharing them with other people and making sure that other people experience them as well, you know?
That's it exactly. Yeah, that's it exactly. I've said for so long now that you know, life is about lessons, absolutely, and everything does happen for a reason, but it's not always your reason. You might be just the channel that's there that is you know, giving that lesson to the other person, whatever it may be.
Nope. And that's I mean that's how it's been, man. That's exactly how it's been. And you know, when I first started kind of doing interviews and talking and telling stuff, there's a side of me that that I would always kind of leave on a shelf, you know, because and everyone compartmentalizes themselves to a little bit where there's parts of ourselves that we want to expose to the world. Because when you expose yourself, you take those darts. Like I was listening to one of your commercials and you were talking about it had the trolls, a commercial trolls. And what I've discovered is that, you know, the more of yourself that you take off the shelf and you share with the world, then the bigger of a target people have to try and hurt and harm you. If you compartmentalize it to where the only thing sticking out of the window for somebody to shoot at is your arm, oh, I'll take that little flesh wound. We may hit an artery, but I won't die, right?
Right.
But when you go head out the window, you might stand a chance of, you know, taking a mortal wound from somebody who's trying to hurt or harm you. And what I've learned to do over the past 2 years is to be fearless in the fact that, hey, you know what? I've had a life where people can learn a lot from me and a lot from what I've been through. And if I don't share it, then I'm doing a disservice to the people who I've encountered along the way and the experiences that I've had. I'm doing a disservice to it. So it's disrespectful for me not to share it. And when it comes to the trolls, that's why I'm one of those people. If you've been following me, you know, when someone attacks me, I attack back, and I'm vicious, and I'm probably worse than anybody out there when it comes to it, because I feel at this point in time, you know, you're trying to stop me from getting the message across to people who actually need it because you're selfish and you have an ego or whatever your personal issue is, you know. So
that's it exactly.
That's enough of me.
That's
I'm gonna
it
get
exactly.
off the therapy story.
Very cathartic. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left. You got one that you can do in about 10 minutes for us?
Yeah, I got one that's about 5-6 minutes. You want me to run with that one?
Sure, that would work. That would work.
All right, let's check. This story came to me from a young lady out of Houston who had a black-eyed kid encounter. It's actually a good story. I'm gonna let you guys hear it, and then we can talk about it when we come back from the break.
The black-eyed kids. I love those kind of stories.
Baby, you understand me now. If sometimes you see that I'm mad, don't you know no one alive can always be an angel? When everything goes wrong, you see some bad. But I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood.
My encounter with this freaky black-eyed kid happened in 2012. But before I tell you my story, I need to tell you a little bit about the circumstances surrounding the events that happened. At that point in my life, I was really not in a good place. My now ex-husband was cheating on me with some young girl he met at Hooters. My boss at the accounting firm was doing everything in her power to drive me crazy. We were living outside of the city of Houston, which in turn was an hour and 30-minute commute with traffic every morning. And my children were going to 2 different schools, one on the north side of the city and the other on the west side of the city. Needless to say, my life was a living hell. And if it wasn't for me going to church every Sunday, I probably would have smothered my husband in his sleep with a pillow. He was coming home smelling like Bath and Body Works every damn night. The day I had my encounter with the black-eyed kid, it started off bad. I woke up late, and there was no hot water. Went to make cereal for the kids, and we were out of milk. Went to use the bathroom, and we had absolutely no toilet paper. You see, my husband was supposed to grab the last two things on his way home the night before, but I guess he was too busy thinking with his other head. So that morning, we leave the house, headed into the city, and I'm forced to feed my kids McDonald's. McDonald's. I remember thinking to myself while sitting in a drive-thru, what the hell else could go wrong today? And as I would discover, that was just the start of it. I got the kids to school and dropped them off at Before Care. Lonnie, the parking attendant, told me my tire was low on air. Now, if I was to keep it real with you, my tire just wasn't low. The tire was going bald. It was old. And I never had a chance to get around to getting a new one, so I just ran with it. I finally got to work, but I was late for a meeting. And when I walked in, my boss had that "I'll cut you" look in her eyes. Then I went to my desk and discovered someone had spilled coffee on the report I've been working on for an entire week. Yeah, and looking back on it, that day was insane. But I made it through it. Later that evening, I left, picked up both kids from after school care, and by the time we were headed home, it was getting dark. So I sat there in bumper-to-bumper traffic. I got this bright idea that I could take one of the little back access roads that would loop around and bring you back to the interstate. I figured I could at least skip some of the traffic, right? Wrong. I turned off the interstate and drove about 10 miles down this semi-rural road, and bang, the tire blows out. Now I got my 9-year-old and 11-year-old daughters in the car with me on the side of the road, and it's pretty much dark. As I sat there with both hands on the steering wheel, I told myself, hey, no big deal. You're just having a pretty shitty day. Mama knows how to change a flat tire, so let's go get this done and get home. I remember it so clearly. Fox News was playing in the car when I got out, popped the trunk, and both my kids were buck-eyed, saying, hey, we need to call Dad. Call Dad. He can fix it. And it took every ounce of strength for me not to say anything to them about their father. I had taken out the spare tire, the jack, and started unscrewing the lug nuts when I got the feeling that someone was watching me. I looked around, but nobody was there. A few minutes passed. I had changed the tire and was screwing back on one of the lug nuts when something told me to look over my shoulder. When I did, a boy no older than 12 or 13 years old was walking toward me from the other side of the road. Now, did I tell you it was dark? Yeah, I did, right? And where I'm from, a 13-year-old boy is just as dangerous as a 30-year-old man. So I gripped that lug wrench tight. It was the kind that was shaped like a cross. I was just about to knock the bejesus out of this boy when I noticed his head was down. He was skinny, real skinny, and this poor child looked like he was in some sort of trouble. Then he says, can you give me a ride, please? And I'm like, what? A ride. I need a ride. And I'm standing there looking at this kid. Red polo shirt, blue jeans, and tennis shoes. But his head is straight down pointing to the ground. I said, no, baby, I can't give you a ride, but you can use my cell phone if you like. That's when he looked up at me with this angry, twisted face and those menacing eyebrows. Oh my God. And his eyes were black. Now, I don't feel guilty at all about what I did next. I swung that lug wrench straight at his head. Oh, hell no, I ain't giving you a ride nowhere. And the craziest thing is, I can promise you I hit his little ass with that wrench. I felt the impact and the vibration in my hand right before I dropped it. Hopped in the car and drove off. Now, I don't know if he was hitting on the back of the car or I ran over something, but I felt the car shake as I sped away. And I looked down, I still had 2 lug nuts in my hand. We had driven about a quarter of a mile when my youngest daughter said, Mommy, did you see? He had black eyes. I remember a whole hell of a lot about that day, and even more about that night. But I still can't understand how that wrench didn't knock him on his little ass. Black-eyed kid versus a black mom. The black-eyed kid didn't do too well.
No, indeed. No, indeed.
Didn't do too well at all. It didn't do too well. And dude, when I tell you, so you've talked to many people, just kind of, I won't want to call them random people because over time you get to know these people, but the personalities, they span the spectrum, right? And she is, she reminds me of, what's the TV show with, where the woman was sleeping with the president? Scandal.
Oh, Scandal.
The woman in Scandal. What's the woman's name in Scandal, the main character?
That I don't remember. It's been a while since I've watched it.
well, the main character in Scandal is this woman. I can't remember her name. I used to watch the show, but I got turned off by it. But anyway, that same personality type, that very, very strong, powerful, I won't back down, I'll deal with you type personality type, that's what she is. And to talk to her actually was a pleasure. It was a joyful thing to talk to her. And I love talking to her when she calls because she's so strong and so confident, it bleeds through the phone. And it's like recharging my battery because so many other people call me, they kind of drain you just with the conversation. Most people kind of pull out of you. She puts into you. And she was like, oh, no, I wasn't playing that. I don't care if he had black eyes or not. You're not going to be rolling up on me on the side of the road. What I look like. I was just like.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Have you, we've got just about 2 or 3 minutes left here. Have you ever encountered anybody that's talked about the black-eyed hags as opposed to the black-eyed kids?
Yes, but I can't tell that story because that particular story, every time I talk about that, it starts some old paranormal, freaky, crazy stuff.
I'll tell you, there's something with the black-eyed hags. It's crazy. It really is.
When I tell the story, it actually starts activity for the person who actually shared it with me.
Yeah.
Which is, so you got to imagine, for months I was telling this story and did not know that it was actually provoking activity for this young lady until she finally heard me on one of the radio shows. And she says, how many times have you told that story? And I was like, maybe like 5 or 6 times. She was like, can you go back and find the dates? And I'm like, okay. Like, she's just frantic. And I'm like, all right, I'll go back and figure out what days I was on the shows. I call her back with the dates and she starts crying. And she says, Doc, you can't tell a story anymore. Then she goes into, on this day you told the story, and at the simultaneously while you were telling the story, my daughter was yanked out of bed. And then she's like, on this day you told the story, and my front door was left. I had locked my front door was open. And so every time I had told that story, she was experiencing something crazy. So I don't really go into it because I believe that it's feeding whatever that entity is. However that works, I don't profess or proclaim to know how exactly that works, but it's getting some kind of energy out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give it anymore.
Absolutely not. Oh boy, I definitely understand all too well. We've got just a couple of moments left here. I want to make sure to give you space here to get out all the information that you want about where people can get a hold of you, where they can find you on YouTube and your websites and all that kind of great stuff. Go for it.
Well, nowadays you can find all my stuff at iamdarkwaters.com. Because of the YouTube ad apocalypse and every time I upload YouTube slamming me with some kind of foolishness, I'm now kind of taking stuff off of YouTube, moving it all to that website. So at that website, you'll still get free content just like what you've got on YouTube, but also there's the premium content. Halloween night, I'm going to be dropping Crown Me King, which is my horror narration album. One of the stories you heard was from that album. And I can promise you that if you want to listen to something spooky and you want to take an adventure, that is something that you're going to listen to. The membership at the website is $4.99, but you'll be able to get the actual album and just listen to it for $1.99 if you just want to hear it. And as time goes on, all my activity will be on that website. It won't be on YouTube anymore.
Gotcha. Awesome. Okay, so iamdarkwaters.com is the one.
Yep. I'm surprised nobody called in to get the membership, bro. So, Ira, here's what I want you to do. You have this. You on tomorrow for the Spookathon, right? So, whoever calls you tomorrow during your Spookathon, because I think you say like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Tell them you're giving away memberships to the website. I just need you to shoot me an email with the person's name and their email address, and I'll set an account up for them. That way you can give the memberships away tomorrow.
Oh, that's awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that. I do appreciate it.
We got to support each other, brother. That's what we got to do.
Exactly.
If we can get people in the paranormal community to stop acting like they're mentally challenged. I was about to use the word that I grew up with and someone would get offended. We can get people to stop acting like they're mentally challenged and just do right by each other. Then we'll all be able to make a living off of this.
Yeah.
You know, part of the reason why people can't make a living off of it is because people are selfish.
Exactly. There's a lot of ego that's in this field, to say the least. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I deeply appreciate it. Hang out for a minute. We'll talk after the show's over. But this has been great. I know the listeners have loved it. I've been seeing all the comments in the chat room about this has been amazing, and they love your stories. So it's really appreciated having you on tonight.
All right, I'll be back whenever you want me, buddy. Just give me a holler.
That sounds great. I will definitely do that. So you guys have been listening to Open Eyes. My name is Ira Robinson. We had Dark Waters on tonight, and you guys can find the links to all of his stuff. It's going to be archived with the show, both on my website, openeyesnetwork.com, as well as the YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Open Eyes Network. Make sure you guys go on over and take a look at his stuff. He's got some amazing stuff, and I love the stories that he tells. Very well worthwhile. So make sure you guys check that out. Again, the archive you guys can find of this show and all the other shows that I do at my website, openeyesnetwork.com. And if you want to send me an email, send it to feedback@openeyesnetwork.com as well. Social media-wise, we're all over the place. Open Eyes Network on all of the different social media platforms out there. And yeah, come on over and join in with us. It's always a lot of fun to interact with you guys. And don't forget, we're running our Spookathon right now. Make sure you guys stay tuned. There's another 24 hours to go. Lots of great stuff coming up for you guys. And I will be back again tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock a.m. until 2 o'clock p.m. A long stint. And I've got some really awesome stuff planned for you guys. And some giveaways now as well from thanks to Dark Waters there. So make sure you guys tune on in. 7 o'clock a.m. Is going to be me, but coming up next is Michael Vera with the Late Night in the Midlands, our flagship show, and you guys will have a great time listening to that one too. Don't forget as well that Pop Bear, the Show Us Don't Tell Us guys, they're coming on later on. The Neelys are going to be doing their own little show at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and then it's going to be me. Don't forget, we're going to have Ryan Gable with the Secret Teachings and Riscala with the Red Pill Reality Show afterwards. Now, if you guys want to check out my own books and stories, you guys can check those out at my website, originalworlds.com. That's originalworlds.com. Make sure you guys go on over there. I've got a lot of content available for you for free. And I do have my new book coming out, Penitence. That's coming out on November 10th. Until next time, in a couple of hours, keep safe out there, have fun, and thank you so much, as always, for listening. Welcome to the LNM SPOOKATHON. Please take a seat. There's one right there waiting for you. We hope you enjoy the 24 hours of live broadcasts with our hosts, and if you do like what we bring you on this network, please donate to keep us on the air. If you want to help us on a monthly basis, the subscription is available for you as well. Simply go to the website, lnmradionetwork.com, and click on the subscribe or donate buttons. We depend on you to help us keep great things like this happening. Stay tuned. There's so much more coming right up.